Welcome back to our program, Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle, where we seek to educate and inspire the community around quality lifestyle and healthy living. And today for our first guest, we have Con Nichols, property advisor and wellbeing advocate. And it's the second in a series with Con about improving your environment to meet your lifestyle. So today he's talking about maintenance. And over to you, Con.
Thank you. Thank you once again for the opportunity. Great question, Linda. Look, I mean, as we all know, as we said the other procedures before, you know, there's mum and dad now, the kids have gone, the grandparents already passed on, and, you know, at the age of, you know, like late 50s, early 60s, it's, what we found out that, for example, when it comes to the maintenance topic, is that a lot of people are trying to do their own maintenance. And it's very risky and costly because it can be very, very dangerous. Now, imagine now, someone middle-aged man or late middle-aged man is trying to get a ladder to go on top of that roof, to clean up the guttering, and next thing you know, it's down the floor. Once again, this is only one little aspect of maintenance that you can save money from, because if you downgrade or downsize the property, you don't have as much maintenance to worry about. Another one very important, of course, is when you're a big house, you've got 8, 10, 12 outlets of either ducted heating or air conditioning, which have got to be serviced and maintenance. Now, all those little things add up to the end cost, where if you've got a smaller property, you don't have as much outlay on maintenance. And another very important one is, for example, like, in a bigger house, you've got established gardens, and of course, they've got to be maintained, you've got to do little lawns and weeding and so on, otherwise they get out of control and it costs you more money to bring it back in control. So when you've got a smaller property, those costs are very much lower than the initial ones.
Mm. Yeah, so it has all of these contingencies, like benefits from changing the size of your house. Is that correct?
Definitely. I mean, look, very simple things. I mean, I know you've got now a house that's got 5 bedrooms, you have 2 living areas, your kitchens and so on, your bachelor's kitchen, and now even your utilities, even your power you're saving. Because at the end of the day, on a smaller property, you don't have as many outlets with powers and so on. That's also another cost to the person out there that is actually trying to save the money, but also saving the money to do something else with their own future as well. Remember, now that you've got the extra cash, you can utilize it to do something else. So every little penny, as we call it, it goes to the kitty, which makes you better off later on.
And what I'm thinking too for our viewers, there'd be many people thinking that they've got big outside areas to maintain, all the mowing, and they might want to spend a bit more time doing things that they love to do. Have you found that arising with people?
Definitely, a lot of times that, don't forget, the older we become, the less mobile we are. And don't forget, in this age, time is very valuable. We can't have the time that we used to have 20, 30 years ago. And that's a very big issue these days, because you need to do the things that you want to do with your partner. But another one actually that I found lately that it's probably another big problem as well that a lot of people that they're facing is decluttering. How many times we go to rooms of houses that you've got so many boxes and things and so on that you can hardly use that particular room. It's a waste of space. And at the end of the day, by downgrading, it gets you to declare the room, to sell the things you don't need, or give them away, depends what you want to do. But at the same token, you get back control of that particular room. However, if you're in downsizing, you don't have to worry about the room anyway. You don't need it. And another one is my favorite. And I know people say, look, when you got a bigger house, you got bigger parties, and you bring your children, it's great. But at the same token also, when you got a smaller property as well, it's easy to control. It's easy to maintain. And you know why, in a sense, it's got more sensitive of the homely look as well. It feels more warmth. And you know what? And also, those big parties at Easter's and Christmas, you don't have to worry. You go to their house, it's not to your house.
And I suppose there's cleaning to take into consideration
Definitely.
as well.
Look, especially these days here, to get a proper cleaner to do your house, knowing my own personal experience, you're looking about $220, $240 a week to clean your house. That's money that you don't have to use, because you know, a smaller property, you don't need to outlay as much money as well. So to me, the key points are the smaller it is. Well, let's rephrase it. The smaller is the new big, if it makes any sense. So, you know, you go into a smaller place because you're more comfortable, you maintain it, you control it, and you live the property. Where in the bigger house, especially double-story houses, you don't even know what's upstairs the last few months since your children got married. So let's be realistic. Utilize the money, utilize your time and space for your own will and your own benefits, and enjoy it. Life's too short to worry about those things.
And Con, what about then the health side of things? What about dust and mould?
Great question. The health is one of the biggest issues, and actually it's very, very risky, because how many people do we know they've got a mouldy bathroom, and next thing you knew, they get an asthma attack, or they get all these infections, and they get sick. But the same token also, with, for example, a few weeks ago, we had this massive storm in Melbourne, and everything was all red from the dust and the rain and so on. Now, all the dust gets sucked in by your air conditioners and your vapor systems and so on. Once again, you've got to clean those things. You've got to maintain them. The bigger they are, the more costly they are. And the same token also, when we said before regarding cleaning your house internally, they cost a lot of money.
So Con, what would be your top tip then from, about in that regard about maintenance?
Great question, Linda. I tell you what, the most important tip is find a property that suits your needs. Find a property that can actually maintain your lifestyle and enjoy it as well. Now, it doesn't matter if it's a house or it can be a unit, it can be an apartment. At the end of the day, it's got to fit on your criteria.
Wonderful. Thank you, Con. Thank you. And for more information on Con Nichols, on changing your environment to meet your lifestyle, then please go to his webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And now we'll go to break, and after the break we'll be back with Mark Carazzo, who will be here today to talk to us about positive emotions. Welcome back. And now we have Mark Carazzo, business consultant and coach, and continuing the series on positive psychology. Today we're talking about positive emotions. And over to Mark. Mark, why is that important? Why are they important?
Well, Linda, they're very important, but before I get into that, I'd just like to give a bit of an outline of the most common positive emotions we deal with every day, and they would be things like serenity, awe, inspiration, curiosity, hope, pride, gratitude, love. They're all the things that we love to hear and we love to want more of. So I suppose the question of why they're important, firstly, they make us feel good. Nobody can have enough positive feelings. But what we've learned is that more positive emotions in our life actually dial up the learning centres in our brain. And this really means that we see life from a broader perspective, we can see opportunity, and we can accept what other people are saying. Negative emotions, things like fear, tend to lead us into a very negative form of behaviour like flight, or sadness into withdrawal. But we know now that positive emotions are broadening, and this has been given to us through effective brain imaging science as well as eye tracking science. So you can see that if we want to be the best form of ourselves, we need to try and experience as many positive emotions as possible, and certainly more positive emotions on a regular basis than negative. It also has been shown from a study called the Nun study that positive emotions lead to longevity. About 200 nuns in 1930, upon entering a convent, did a bit of an autobiographical study on what they were hoping to get out of life in the convent. Now, 6 decades later, scientists tried to take that writing to try and anticipate what in that writing could indicate how long those particular nuns would live for. And it wasn't the intelligence evidenced by their writing which showed how that long they would live for. It wasn't where they lived, it was more a question of how many positive emotions, how much happiness was shown in their particular writing. So I think that's very important. Positive emotions lead to longevity. It is also a buffer, a protective resilience against difficult times. And we also know, I think curiously now, is that people that experience positive emotions tend to have a more coherent and smooth heart activity, which is very important.
Oh, okay. And how would you say then, how could people incorporate more positive emotions into their lives?
I think the first thing to do is look at things that we already have in our lives, particularly even the small things, and be grateful for them. So I suggest that people practice regularly gratitude journaling, or practice gratitude in their everyday life. Find something to be thankful for. That of itself is a positive emotion. It's gratitude. It's also things like serenity. It brings awe. It brings curiosity. So gratitude is very important. I think the other thing we can do is savour pleasant experiences that we have in our life. We tend to jump from one good thing to the next and forget what we've been through. So it's a concept known as savouring or replaying. Something, for instance, from your past holiday within 6 months, live through how you felt that day, the emotions that you were feeling, the positive sense. You're basically reproducing something for which you've already experienced. So I think that's, 2 clear ways to do it. The other thing I really strongly advocate is meditation. It's a word which is confusing to a lot of people, but just finding something small, normally associated with nature, that you can focus on, calm yourself down, focus on that piece of nature, and try and keep the mind still is a great way, the research says, of bringing positive emotions into our life.
So important. And what about the workplace then?
Well, the workplace is a place where we spend a lot of our time. We spend 8 hours a day there, and yes, it can be a place for positive emotions. When you think about it, pride in your work, you can be inspired by other people, you can be in awe of other people. It's a place where relationships are very important to us, so there's even possibility of love. And when I say love, I don't necessarily mean love in the romantic sense. I mean love in a sense where we have mutual care for people, we share positive emotions with them. So the workplace is very important. The other thing to really note about the workplace is the concept of contagion, which basically really dictates that our moods and emotions are highly transferable to others. So we can pick up positive emotions from others, and importantly, I think we can share and give positive emotions to people that we work with.
Mark, would some positive emotions be more important than others?
It's a very individual question to ask that. I think they're all important. There's 2 that personally stick out for me. One of them is gratitude. Because we're so ambitious and because we're prone to sort of negativity, I think it's very important to rebalance our life, get into the present moment, is to look at what we've got on a regular basis and be thankful for it. And that unleashes a whole lot of positive emotions in our lives. So for me, gratitude is one. The other one is love. And I'm not saying love in the romantic sense. I'm saying love in moments of mutual care, in sharing of positive emotions with many people during our day and our friends. It's proven to be very important. We're seeing some good evidence showing that love helps us to have smooth, coherent heart patterns, and really is very valuable to our health.
And what about some hints for our viewers? What would be some final hints on experiencing positive emotions?
Well, do something that you love and you enjoy. Go out into nature, I think particularly, and not only experience positive emotions, but tell yourself you're experiencing positive emotions. So that moment is not lost on you, whether you say it outwards or whether you say it inwards. So that would be a key one. I think meditation is very important, as I've said before. And the other thing I think we should realise in this modern world, we tend to all carry mobile phones, and we really have seen them in some cases as a necessary item that accompanies us. It can be used for positive emotions. All of us have photos in there. All of us can create slideshows of our recent holidays. All of us can take a photo of nature. So I'd say there's 3 tips for you.
Thank you so much, Mark. For more information on Mark Corazzo, then please go to our website healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au, talking about positive psychology. And now we'll go to break, and after the break we'll be back with Robin O'Connell on supporting your families through pregnancy and loss, because we've actually been asked by you, our viewers, to repeat this segment. So see you soon. Welcome back. Now we have Robin O'Connell, our funeral celebrant, and talking to us today about supporting families through pregnancy and loss. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you.
And Robin, may I ask you, what led you to be interested in this subject?
So my daughter died 40 years ago. She was nearly 10 months old, and I found that people just didn't know what to do with me. They'd cross the street rather than talk to me. They'd avoid talking about her, or I'd become the supporting person and support them when I told them the bad news. So it led me to a path of grief education, and then finally a funeral celebrant 17 years ago.
Wow, that's an amazing story. And then, so what would be we hear the term stillbirth and miscarriage. What would be the correct term to use?
So it depends how far the gestation is. So under 20 weeks is classed as a miscarriage, and over 20 weeks is classed as a stillbirth. And the reason for that is that over 20 weeks the birth is registered. They can either go for a funeral or a burial or just have a direct cremation, but something must be done with the baby at that point in time. And there's lots of support out there. There's a foundation now that will help families that are in crisis, because we're not expecting a baby to die. So often families can be left unaware with that as well. So there is support around for families who have any sort of pregnancy loss. But I think one of the main things is that people don't know how to handle people when they've had a pregnancy loss. And we have that, what they call, that 12-week rule, where families are said, don't tell anyone till you're 3 months, and that way then, you don't kind of like if anything goes wrong. But in actual fact, those parents need support. If they've been longing for that baby and they're 2 months pregnant, they want to tell the world. And there's this big thing about, oh no, wait till 3 months because you never know what happens. 1 in 4 pregnancies in Australia ends. So it's common. And when people have experienced it and they start telling people about it, they suddenly find that there are all these other people who've had that experience but never said anything. They've never shared that experience because it wasn't talked about. And we need to start the conversation. And lots of people are trying to do that. You might have noticed on October the 15th, this year and in a few previous years, there are pink and blue things that go up on buildings. So in different states, there were different buildings all over Australia that were lit up in pink and blue for Pregnancy Infant Loss Day, which is an international day. For people to feel free that even if they're only 6 weeks pregnant, that they can share that joy with others, even if it doesn't go right. Because at least then they're acknowledged that, people are reluctant to even say, oh, I actually had a miscarriage at 6 weeks, but it was only 6 weeks. But to them, that was a baby. I know a family who had 11 pregnancy losses, and every one of those pregnancies, no matter how soon, as soon as they got those 2 little lines, as soon as they got those lines, they wanted to shout it to the world, because it's important to them that their babies are recognised.
Well, for both parents, I suppose, particularly women with the hormones racing, that's a loss no matter what goes on, and and then the men would be feeling it as supporters of the.
And I think that's where we let them down all the time, because we always say, so how's the wife doing? And we don't say, how are you doing? How do you feel about this? It was your baby too. But they think because the wife is the one who is pregnant, that that's the one who's going to be feeling it more. And two people decide to have a baby. And it's really important that dads are recognised as well.
And I suppose for in same-sex marriages, it plays out as well. There's the other partner is still feeling that.
Yes. Yes, and it's, you know, people don't go off and say, oh, I think I'll have a baby and I'll go home and tell my husband tomorrow. You know, they talk about it, they plan, they have dreams, they have hopes for that baby, and those dreams and hopes are shattered. So we need to do more as a society to be able to say, you know, it's okay to talk about it. You know, if you know the day that the baby was born, you know, remember it, put it in your diary for next year. Give the person a call and say, hey, how are you doing today? I know today was the day that Noah was born. You know, it's real, those little things mean so much. And often we're thinking them. You know, so I met up with a family member who I hadn't seen for many, many years. And she put her hand on me and she said, you know, I think of you every 7th of August, which would have been Rebecca's birthday. And I thought, that's fantastic, but I would have loved to have known that you did that. I only found out like 20 years later that every year she thinks of her, and that would have meant so much to me.
Oh, absolutely. So then, what would you say is a take-home message for our viewers to know how they can support others?
Oh, the most important thing is you are not alone. And I think that's the hardest part, is that isolation of thinking you're so alone, it's only you, maybe 40 of your closest family that are affected by a pregnancy loss or an infant loss. And it's not a very broad spectrum of people. And people hear about it. That, you know, might mention it to somebody that you work with and they'll go, oh, that's sad. But it's a fleeting thought. And then they go on with their lives where your life has been irreversibly changed.
Those people don't know how to have the discussion, really, do they?
No, and we need to be more comfortable with having that discussion. We need to ask the questions of, you know, what were you looking forward to? What were the things that you wanted to happen? So they get a chance to voice them because they've been in their head.
And Robin, what would be some tips for our viewers from today?
Remember them at Christmas. So have a candle on the table. Do something like that. Remember them on birthdays. Give people a call. Just be able to be with them and let them talk. And say, how do you feel? And then say, but how do you really feel? Because we will naturally say, I'm okay. But just ask how they really feel. And you might just be surprised at their answer. Don't worry if it brings tears. The tears were there anyway. All you've done is to help release them.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. For any more information on pregnancy and loss and supporting those people experiencing that, then please go to our website healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au and there'll be more information on Robin.